go. Thank you. Right, kia ora koutou. I now reconvene the meeting of the Awards and Grants Committee. I've received an apology from Councillor Boyer. Are there any other apologies? No. I move the motion that the Awards and Grants Committee accepts the apology for non-attendance from Councillor Boyer. Do I have a seconder?
Sure.
Thanks, Bex. And I now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The motion is carried. We will now go through the applications we've received. The summary of the applications received is in attachment 1, which is page 9 of the agenda. So we'll go through each of the 14 one at a time. And we'll start with Business Wairarapa. So they've asked for $30,000 in year 1, $60,000 in year 2, and $60,000 in year 3. Is there anyone who'd like to share what they feel Business Wairarapa should have this year, or for the 3 years? Start the conversation? Well, I'll start. I suggest that we stick with, they received $30,000 last year. I'd like to see them retain that level, $30,000 for this year. And
No, I was just going to talk to it after you finish.
yep. And with the funding that we have, I would suggest that we just maintain it at $30,000 a year for the next 3 years. Has anyone else got a view?
Yeah, I enjoyed the presentation, and it was good to hear that they are promising a bit more of a focus on Masterton.
Yep.
That's why we try not to be too siloed. We have had conversations in the past with them about we want to see Masterton benefiting and economic return on money invested from Masterton. And the other thing that we talked about was their membership based, and as a council, because we're supporting their funding, we need to be seen as a key stakeholder, and that we're supporting the Masterton community, and that needs to be recognised. So I'd like to support that we stick with the same funding, but we maybe work the relationship a bit stronger so that we can see a definite impact on Masterton with regards to the funding.
Yep.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you both around the amount. I also believe that it would be great to actually have Nicola come in and talk to us maybe throughout the year, like others do, that we fund, just to get a better idea from her directly what is happening, what projects are out there, what activities being positive, and especially around that Masterton focus. But as far as the fundings go, I think they'll be quite happy with it. Yeah.
I'm sure that they would support that if we're funding them.
Yeah.
Gary?
Yeah, look, I take on view all the comments made so far. I just think probably we could, you could just give the numbers really of what we're looking at in terms of what we've got to give out and what's being asked for. I think that's quite important, because Business Wairarapa for me would be one of those where if we had the funding available, the amount of funding available to meet this sort of thing, then yes, you could look at it and say, yeah, they could get more. But I think 30,000 is a 30,000 over the 3 years is where I would certainly arrive at. But I think we need to, when people are listening to this, they need to keep in mind that we're about $200,000 short, aren't we, with what people are asking for. So
Yeah, that's a good point, Gary. We have got a limited amount here where we'll use as much of that money as we can, but we can't go above that amount. There's a lot of really worthy people who have asked for funding here, and unfortunately not everyone's going to get what they want. But we will do the best we can as a council to support where we can.
So just on that, Gary's raised a good point. How much funding was actually asked for in this round? It was 400 odd, wasn't it?
So asked for in this round was 404,276.
And the budget is?
And budget is 292,852.
So there's that 180k extra that people have asked for.
yeah,
Oh, about 112,000.
yeah,
Oh, well, that we can't give anyway.
yeah,
No.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the point. So that I think when people are listening to this, they need to realise that when we're reducing what organisations want, we're doing it for a reason. We just don't have the money.
Yeah.
For our Masterton community.
Yeah.
Right, so for Business Wairarapa, you guys generally are you supportive of $30,000 a year for the next 3 years?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Going on to cobblestones, so they've asked for $12,000 a year for the next 3 years. Last year they received $3,500. Does anyone like to share where they'd like to go with that?
I am not sure on this one. For me, the decisions that I make today are really based around the benefits of the Masterton community. And given the fact that, you know, the majority of our community are finding it tough, I don't know how many would be able to actually get to Greytown currently to go and visit cobblestones. Also support, obviously, Aratoi, you know, do a lot around local history, and there and free for anybody to access. So, yeah, I'm not so keen this time round to support them. I just think, given we're tight on funds, that's one that we could probably reconsider.
Anyone else? Panama?
I particularly like the new focus on building a relationship with Pāpara, Waimanai, but like Stella, I too feel that we've got to focus on the Masterton ratepayers, and we just can't afford it.
Anyone else?
Yes.
I take the other point of view really, I suppose. I think cobblestones are a regional museum, as they say. A number of local people do go down there. They're not asking for expensive money, so you know, I would be happy to support them to the level of the last time.
Joe?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, hats off to them having an agreement with Papa Waimarai, you know, with sharing some space with them. But, you know, it is tight, the budget's very tight, and we do have to look at the people that this area, this council is serving, as to them coming first. And that the investments, you know, we should be looking more at our local Aratoi museum.
Yes.
Yeah, I support what Joe, Marama and Stella were saying, and one of our biggest grant recipients is Aratoi, and they're fabulous with the fact that they tell the stories of the whole of the Wairarapa. So I see that our Masterton ratepayers are supporting our history through our local Aratoi, and, you know, whilst it'd be nice to give something to everybody, I think we need to get our best bang for our buck without being disrespectful, and concentrate on our own geographical area and local residents and ratepayers. So I wouldn't keep them in the pot.
Yeah. I'm with Gary on this. I do see people from our community using it, like schools and travelling down to use it from Wairarapa that might not travel as families. So I would have been happy to go with just the level from last year, which is 3,500. But it seems like around the table that's not the majority supported view. So for this year there'll be no funding towards cobblestones. Is that the general feeling?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Digital seniors, so they've asked for $15,000 a year for each of the next 3 years, and that's what they've been receiving in the past. Anyone like to? Yes, Gary?
Yeah, I would like to support the 15,000. I think that you know, Masterton, like a lot of the areas around here, is quite a strong ageing population. I think it was well put to us in their presentation that there are a number of people in that category who do struggle with the digital world. And you know, I think considering we've got an ageing strategy, and this is one way that we can support that. So I'm happy for them to continue to get $15,000 over the 3 years.
Bex?
Yeah, I'd like to support this at the same level as well. One thing's changed since the digital senior started, and that senior net no longer operates, so these guys are the only ones that do this. And the thing I like about them, they do sessions at the library, which is well supported by our library staff, so that's good news and a good partnership. Also too, they go to rest homes and they do out calls and in calls, so to speak. So I believe that maybe their time will pass at some stage, because as people come through and they get older, they'll be digitally, you know, sound and competent, but we're not there yet. And so I think, you know, we've got, with this being a 3-year commitment, then we should review perhaps what the support is and what demand is there as people get more technologically savvy.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I still can't set up a printer for a home computer, and I'm almost at the age where I can use it. So I would definitely support the 15,000 a year for the next 3 years.
Perhaps I should say that the digital seniors, I like the way they go out into the community, and particularly into our rural community. But even if they don't go, at least they're available. So you know, we can be seen to be servicing our rural community as well.
I think they're great. I definitely support that. Fab Lab, so they've asked for $20,000 a year for the next 3 years, and they previously have been receiving $20,000 a year. Does anyone like to share about that? Bex?
Yeah, I remember when Fab Lab first came to the community, council included, which was 5 years ago, and with this great idea and business model, and a number of groups came together to support them. What I kind of pictured at the time was seeding money to get them up and running and then on their own 2 feet. So councils funded $20,000 a year for the last 5 years, which is a significant investment from our residents and ratepayers. And I believe that now's the time to cut the umbilical cord, because we are tight on money and we've got overwhelming demand on our funds, but also too, we do support them in kind with access to the library, free rent, using the resources. So it's not that our support stops, it's just that our cash funding would stop. So I don't know how others feel, but it's kind of where I sit. You know, we've done the 5 years. Best of luck to them. Please feel free to use our resources, but you know, it's time to fly on your own.
So Corinne, can I just ask, sorry, what support do we provide them, aside from any potential funding?
So Fab Lab are operating out of one of the prefabs of the libraries, the Library Learning Centre, Arco. So they are in the makerspace there, and so that's a free of charge accommodation, and they provide access to the community to those that use their own machines, but also the library machines, and provide some support around those machines as well.
Okay, so it's rent-free, there's no power cost or anything like that?
Yeah, I was a little bit on the fence with this one, but now that I've learned today that they've actually been given a premise rent-free, I know quite a few community groups that would love that as an added bonus, and you know, we are supporting them around that and other resources. I feel like that's a pretty generous approach, and that the ratepayers would be probably quite surprised to hear that, but also I'm sure, you know, would agree that that would suffice. I think it's quite generous.
Joe?
Yeah, Corinne, I was interested in your comment around they use the library machines. Do they have their own machines, or are the machines part of the assets that the community own?
It's a combination of both. So some of the machines are owned by Fab Lab, and some of the machines are owned by the Library Service Council, so community assets.
Okay, so I kind of thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure of that, because I think that 5 years of support from the council to actually establish is very generous for a body like this to do that. And I think that there needs to be a time, and business needs to be able to stand. And I think 5 years has been plenty of time for them to stand.
Oh, I just wondered if I could ask another question. Correct me if I'm wrong too, but we also have some of those skill sets in our own library staff, don't we? And in that space, so we can deliver some of that service anyway, can't we?
So the library has, since 2014, has had a member of staff who delivers programming in that makerspace area as well. So we've actually got a couple of staff who have capabilities in that space. So the library still does offer its own programming through the makerspace and we'll continue to do that regardless, because that's part of an active thing that we do in terms of providing skills and information to the community, and we're funded to do that through council.
Thank you.
That's good.
During your presentation, just following on from Joe and Get Thorough Business, they talked about and showed us about what they have, the arrangement they have with Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
putting things into their machines. You know, they've got lots of potential there that they could possibly look at more in the business line. So I think they'll be all right.
That was a good point, you're right, because they raised the thing they've developed that goes into Coke vending machines, and I wonder what the level of funding is that they receive from that. Do you have any idea, Colin?
No, I don't.
So it seems to be the mood, so we'll continue the support that we are providing with the accommodation and services.
What would that kind of equate to a year roughly, the support that we're giving them around the rent and cover power and machines that they don't have to purchase because we own them?
So I mean, in truth, we haven't costed it. So
Okay.
so when the original MOU was done, it's costed that $5,000.
Right.
So that was 2019.
Yes.
So you want to put an inflationary thing
Sure, yeah.
on from there.
Yeah.
And same with we haven't. I'd be guessing in terms of power.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Obviously,
Yeah.
we've got a range of things that they would choose electricity, so they are going to be consuming power.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't.
Just another point though, and they have their own access to that too, don't they?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
they can use it any day of the week,
Yep.
day or night, or...
Yeah, so under the current setup with those buildings, that they have that 24-hour access, 7 days a week. Obviously we've got the library expansion coming, and we need to think about what that means. But in terms of those buildings there right now, and they'll be there for a while longer yet, that is the current situation, and that will remain.
So even if you did that, it's still at $500 a week.
Yeah, it's still.
Tim, I just want to ask Corin, when, you know, because, I mean, I see value in family, but the conversation is changing my mind a little bit. We've given them $100,000 over so far, is that right?
Yes, so the MOU was signed in 2019 at the $20,000 a year.
Okay, so we've given them quite a heap of money. Question I was asked, if you can remember, because I can't, at the start of when they came to us, was the idea that they would become self-sustainable? I mean, I would have thought in those early days we would have said to them, well, we'll set, you know, this is for setting you up, but there's got to be a point along the line pretty quickly where you become self-sustainable. We can't, you know, because we're giving you a lot of money to start. Can you remember that?
So that predates me. So that was under the previous, with the library manager before me. So the MOU isn't quite expressed that way, but it was a 3-year MOU. So it defined it as 3 years with the funding. And then at the LTP in 2021, we brought that into that 3-year cycle, which is why we've been through another piece which has brought us to the 5-year point. So I'm not sure about the thinking that was going on at that point, but the MOU is clear that that initial idea was around that initial period, and then council made the decision in the LTP in 2021 to extend that from 2021 through till this point in 2024.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is not funding through this grant process, but we'll continue the support that we're offering through the rent, the accommodation, and the use of power and resources. So that's what we'll go with, so no funding through the grants process. Light Flight Trust, so they've asked for $20,000 a year for the next 3 years, and Gary?
Yeah, I think this is an absolute no-brainer. Light Flight Trust do an amazing job. Quite frankly, I think $20,000 a year we're getting it cheap, so for what they provide, so yeah, all for it.
And it was really good having those real life stories that the presenters shared, so we know how
Great presentation.
they are actually supporting us
Yeah.
in our community, and how often they do as well. I think it's twice a week,
Yeah.
which is pretty incredible.
Well,
So,
having been a recipient of like us, maybe not here in Masterton, but in Wellington,
yeah.
I'm really grateful to them.
I think the big statistic was that they've just got a number here that they have up more than 100 visits to Masterton every year.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's not fantastic, but it's.
Yeah.
So, $20,000 a year for the next 3 years for the Lifeboat Trust. Number 6, Masterton Food Bank. They've asked for 40,000 for this, for the 40,000 and 42,000 and 44,000 over the next 3 years. Anyone here, Stella?
Yeah, no, well, look, obviously, a very direct community organisation that in this current climate isn't just helping our most vulnerable, is now helping a heck of a lot more of our even slightly not vulnerable people. I also know that they really are struggling. They've put out their own campaign of late, getting people to sort of sign up for monthly donations and things like that. So I think anything we can give them will be greatly received. I think 40, obviously we know that we're in a tricky position today with the amount we've got, to offer. So I would look at maybe halving that if we could, around that 20k mark, versus the 40.
Bex?
I believe we need to continue supporting Food Bank. I don't think that we need to support Food Bank at the level of paying for the full-time manager, which is what the request is here. One of the things that concerned me too from the presentation is Food Bank people used to be referred to Food Bank for the services, either from an agency or something like that. And when we had the presentation, I asked about that, and they said, no, we do self-referrals as well. And I'd like to follow through on that, because it concerns me that anybody then can turn up and say, hey, I need this, but it hasn't been qualified, and possibly any money that they do have spend it elsewhere. So I just always thought the agency referral system was pretty foolproof. So I'd just like to explore that a bit further with them. I don't know whose responsibility that could be. Because sometimes people will replace a handout and put other more vulnerable people in a position where they might be missing out. I also think there's been some service dramas too, Joe, and maybe you might like to talk to that or not?
Yeah. Service issues around the food bank, yeah. I just think that if the committee, whatever the committee decides on how much to award the food bank does need to actually lift its game in its service to the people. It needs to understand where the people are and what is actually available to them to actually prepare the food, rather than give food out to people that have nothing to be able to prepare the food in.
Yeah.
So I would like to see the food bank actually start polishing up their game a little bit more and getting to know the types of people and their situation of who they're giving that food to, and to ensure that the food that they are giving out is actually not perished over time in their storage. So, I've had experience of that happen to some of the whānau in the organisations I support. So I would like to see that. I don't think that we have enough to be able to give them everything they want, like everybody else, but a little something towards helping them.
Yeah.
And thanks Joe, and I just wanted to say too that we've given them 20k previously, but I do also respect that food costs have gone up. So if the committee's interested though, I'd like to move that up to 25k, even though they've asked for 40, just recognising inflation and the cost of what they do have to do.
Yeah. Sorry, Stella, did you have that?
Yeah, no, I'm not against that at all, because if they are listening today, I just wanted to mention that South Wairarapa Food Bank have a wonderful model where they've actually got a second-hand store at the front of their food bank, and then behind is where all the food's kept and people come and go. But they were saying that they raise over, I can't remember is that figure, but thousands of dollars during the year through the second-hand store that then buys the food, and it's a really great model, so I don't know if that's something, Masterton Food Bank, if you're listening, that you could maybe look into. It was a really wonderful model that obviously has proven to be really successful.
Yeah, so what we're looking at then is say $25,000 a year for the next 3
Yeah, I'll
years,
pay with
but also some acknowledgement from the food bank staff to make sure that the areas where they're falling a little bit short are addressed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 25,000 for the next 3 years. Next up, we have Nuku Ora. So they have asked for $47,000 for this year, $38,000 for next year, and then $40,000 for the year after, coming to a total of $125,000 over the next 3 years. Last year they received $29,000. Now, does anyone like to share their opinion on that? Bex?
Yeah, the relationship with Nuka-Ora has been a little nondescript, I would say, in the past, but there's been some changes there which are quite exciting.
Yeah.
And it's again another area where we as councillors need to see more Masterton-based evidence and process. But some of the stuff they've planned and in their submission is good and supports what council's doing. So whilst I wouldn't support the application for the 47,000, and we've given them 30 in the past, I would like to support the work they can do in the spaces and places strategy that council's doing, which was 10K, and also the work that they do with our senior games and our older ageing group, because we've recognised that we are quite extreme with an ageing population, one of the highest per capita in New Zealand. So to me that's supporting what council is doing. So whereas the other stuff, no.
Gary?
Yeah, I take on board what Bex says. I think that this has been an organisation which has, in the past, I guess, in my opinion, possibly underperformed in terms of the money that we've actually given them. I'm encouraged too by the fact that they've now got a different setup. They've got to me, a much more wire-centric setup, which is going to perhaps increase their presence here. So I certainly would support giving them some money. I'd be looking at perhaps $15,000 a year over the 3 years, something like that.
Personally, I probably wouldn't have funded them because I get a lot of money from central government, but going on the points that you guys have raised, I think what Gary suggested, $15,000 a year for the next 3 years, seems like we're acknowledging the hopeful level of increased local service. Would you?
Can I just say one other thing? I think part of that working harder at the partnership is them reporting back to us on Masterton specific initiatives and how they're supporting council and our community.
And where that money's being spent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they come to the Audit and Risk Committee to report to us. So we'd like to see what those goals are, the objectives that they're reporting against, as we have in the past, but maybe the goals will be more relevant to our community.
I think, Tim, you would agree, because you've raised this before too. I think possibly we as a council have been a little bit remiss too, in terms of just keeping a check on some of these things, and maybe we haven't monitored this organisation as well as we should have. So, maybe they can take that as a shot across the bows. I don't know, but yeah.
But it's good to see. So we're looking at $15,000 a year for the next few years. So there's still considerable funds going into that organisation.
Yeah.
Right, moving on to Pacifica or Wairarapa Trust. So they've asked for $20,000 a year for the next 3 years. Previously they have been receiving $13,500. Who would like to share their position on that? Bex?
I'm the Three Warwick Council's representative on the trust, because they all fund it in some way, but just to point out that the central government funding that they received initially to set up and for the last 3 years is all gone, because it was all COVID related. But from that exercise though, they've found a real need with their community for a number of things, immigration, employment, health, vaccinations, food resilience, and also they've done some great things like they've got firewood that comes in, they've got set up a community garden, they managed to give free vaccinations to the community, whatever age you were. So even though the threat of COVID at that level has diminished, the needs of this community have not. And the great thing is now there's an organised group who's looking after them. So I think it's really important that we continue to support Pacifica Wairarapa Trust in some way. I'm not sure at what level, but I definitely think they've got a role to play in our community.
I'd agree with Bex. I particularly like what they do for the youth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd agree that we've got them.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, I agree with Bex. I think that they do fill a market in there that no one else has been filling, and they have certainly shown that they're doing stuff for themselves and slowly building, and whatever we give them, it's not like they're asking for the world. They're coping with what they've got and doing the very best that they can do with it. So
I think it's important too to remember that Luther, when he presented, said that it wasn't just for his group, for the people who needed help and service, that they would give it. So
I had no difficulty supporting them either. I think that for a group that really is still very much in its infancy, they've really grown really quickly, and as Martin so correctly said, and Luther pointed out in his address, that it's not only Pacific folk that they help, they actually help outside that area. So I think they do a great job. Again, this one comes down for me in terms of not quite having the amount of funding available to give them exactly what they like. But I'd like to think we could at least continue to give them $15,000 over the 3 years.
Yeah, I would be happy with that. I've seen in my other role as a principal of Lakeview School, they've advocated strongly for two families facing immigration issues, and they've been incredible with the support for those two families, and also providing after-school clubs free of charge for people in that community or any community to use. So they've asked for 20,000. They previously had 13,500. So Gary suggested $15,000 for the next 3 years.
yeah.
Okay, we'll go up there. 15,000 for the next 3 years. Next up, we've got Pukaha Mount Bruce. So they have previously received $20,000 a year. Now they're asking for that to continue for the next 3 years. $20,000 a year for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I'd expect that. So this is interesting because we could say that we're, not supporting, organisations outside of the Masterton area. However, am I right to believe that I think this 20k goes towards a residence discount for the Masterton ratepayers? And if so, if that is the case, they really need to advertise it a little bit more, because I guarantee you not many Masterton ratepayers know that they get discounted entry fee at Pukaha. So maybe Corin, you can speak to that?
Yeah, so it's to continue the 50% discount for Masterton
50%?
residents. Yeah.
See, I didn't even know that. That is amazing.
The other thing that would be good, because I did know that, maybe I'll take this Stella. It's been going, but there was a lot of advertising some years ago for it, like you heard about it regularly, and obviously that's dropped off, so we'd like to, for that to bump up again. But the other things too, that must be able to be tracked.
Yes,
so I'd really love a report on that,
please,
of how many people have said, or how many people are actually taking advantage of it. Because you'd appreciate that if it was advertised more, that would increase as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess to the...
So this, you're right though, this 20k is tied to recognising Masterton people that want to go there and giving them a discount, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah. So a gift from us to them. Great, thanks.
So we are happy to support that 20,000 a year for the next 3 years.
Yep, and to see an increase in Masterton ratepayers going from 50% to a discount.
So everyone wins, because they get more people going anyway.
Yes, that's right.
And more people going.
I'll be sharing that on my social media.
Something for that too through our social media.
Yeah, so council,
Yeah.
noting the comments here, and we can look at that through our comms team and social media and some of the stuff that we do.
Yeah, because it's actually not posted on their website either.
it wasn't part of their presentation, but I'd also like to acknowledge that they do support of employment, a lot of Masterton residents.
Yes,
Yeah,
they do.
valid point, Anna. Yeah.
Right, so 20,000 for a year for the next 3 years. Now we've got the Riversdale Beach Surf Lifesaving Club, so they've previously received $40,000 a year, and they've asked for $40,000 a year for the next 3 years. Gary?
Yeah, I think again, this is, to me, this is a bit like trust, this is a no-brainer. It's just, again, I know we're repeating ourselves, but again, it's just unfortunate we don't have the funding to give them exactly, to bring it up to the 65,000 they said they really needed. But I must say, I really appreciated their presentation of where they did note they went for 40,000 because of the fact that they realised the funding situation we were in. And that's really good of them to do that. I think that this is an organisation which performs exceptionally, and for young and old, and it's great. So yeah, 40,000 for me, no problem at all.
Yes.
I also think a lot of people don't realise or appreciate the volume of work that they do, and that they're an emergency responder on both beach communities and around the coast. If someone has a heart attack or an accident or something like that, they're all qualified there first on the scene. So they're really like a health or medical emergency service for us as well, not just on the beaches and keeping people safe when they're swimming. I think they're amazing, so I'm happy to continue support at the 40k level.
Yeah, I too am happy to support them, but mine is probably for a different reason, and similar to one other, the Lifelike Trust. No, it's the digital seniors. They're out in the rural community and working with everybody, but also with our rural families. So I think it's a good way to support them.
Yep. And although the three that presented with you, I know that the people who work there are a lot younger than the lifeguards over the rest of the country. They're often college kids, and we hear so many things that are negative about children in our community, but this is incredibly positive. So I think that $40,000 a year would be well supported by all of us, and it's unfortunately we can't fund them the full amount because it's an incredible service. Tiawhina Community Hub, so they've asked for $35,000 a year for the next 3 years, so $105,000 in total. Previously they've been receiving $20,000 a year. Who would like to share your position on that?
I'll just say I'm actually on the board of that one, so probably best not comment.
Bets?
I'd really like to support an increase, but unfortunately we don't have sufficient funds to the level that they've asked, which is 35. But I'd like to suggest that we move from 20 to 25k. And one of the things that I've noticed a big difference there is some of their skills-based programs that they run locally at the house, where they're helping people get out of their own houses and network and socially, but they're also improving people's skills and confidence. And in fact they've got some great success stories where people have gone to the hub and then are now teaching others the things that they've learnt, or are now going into employment because their confidence has grown. So it's a real wraparound service that they offer there, and I also know that the people go there when there's a problem, whether it's a budgeting or a food or a housing or a violence, whatever. So they're in touch with their community, and we need to make sure that continues and support that.
Yeah, Gary?
One of the quotes that Donna, who's the amazing manager of this place, she said, "We walk with the people who need help," and that's exactly what they do. They're a great organisation, and I don't think we can say more about them really. I mean, they're so valuable to our community. I personally would like to, I know we could, again, it's the name, but I'd like to see 30,000. 30,000 over the 3 years. I think we could possibly get to that point for them.
Yep. I think Gary's point's a really good one when they walk alongside. So someone goes to them, this is what Donna shared last week, with an issue, and they see them right from the beginning of the issue to the issue being resolved. And that will definitely help people's confidence.
Tim, I'm not going to share an opinion at all, but just to share a fact is that Te Whina are actually the umbrella organisation for Kingsway, which is the night refuge in town that's been set up. So they're actually the governing body for that work as well. So I don't think the public actually realise that, so they've put their hand up to help for that as well. So yeah, really, really amazing.
Thanks, Stella. So we'll look at then $30,000 a year for the next 3
Well, I'm
years.
suggesting 30,000.
Yeah.
Okay, 30,000 for the year for the next 3 years. Moving on to Y Waste. So Y Waste, where am I? Y Waste, they've asked for $25,000 a year for the next 3 years, and for $75,000 in total. Previously, they've received $20,000. Anyone happy to share their position there?
I'd just like to follow on from our comments about Food Bank, and Y Waste and Food Bank work really well together. And, you know, the demand has increased.
Yeah.
And so we have given them 20 before, so I'd like to move, as with Food Bank we did, up to the 25 mark in recognition of the demand increasing.
Okay, so as a group, we're happy with 25,000 a year for next year?
Yeah.
I'd be great.
Yeah, I just want to support what Bex has said around Y Waste. With the organisations that I'm involved with, I always hear pulling all around Y Waste does this and Y Waste does that.
Yeah.
More so than any other place that people access food from. So I support what Bex is saying around the 20.
Thanks.
If we can afford it.
We just about can, I think. So $25,000 a year for the next 3 years for Y Waste.
Yep.
Now we have the Wairarapa Community Centre Trust. So they've asked for $50,000 a year for the next 3 years. Previously they've been receiving $25,000 a year. Has anyone got a position on that? Yes, Gary?
Yeah, as a former chairman of this trust, I do understand the great work they do. I mean, they're home for about 14, I think, organisations. This fund they're asking for is to not only subsidise the operational costs, but they've also got a food resilience program that actually fits in with the food bank and Y Waste and whatever, so it's quite an important part of our community as well. I don't think that, quite frankly, that we have the money to look at the 50,000, but I think 25,000 a year as they were getting over the 3 years would be where I would live to.
That's just maintaining the level we currently have.
Yeah, maintaining the level, yeah.
Anyone else in regards to that? Or you're supportive of what Gary shared? Okay, so we'll go $25,000 a year for the next 3 years for the Wairarapa Community Centre Trust. And now we have the Wellington Free Ambulance, and they have asked for different amounts over the next 3 years, each of approximately around $31,000. This year, $30,000, $30,276, and previously, or last year, they received just over $25,500. So who's got a position on that, Bex?
I fully support Wellington Free Ambulance. You know, it's a free service, one of the only in the country, I think. Secondly, they did 4,000 calls in Masterton in the last 12 months. It's incredible. And they have 30 full-time paramedics. It works out to about $1 for each person. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's money well spent. So I fully support. I just want to round it off to $30,000 for the next 3 years, which is more indicative of where our population's sitting at the moment as well. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. Like Flight and Riversdale, you know, when you're putting people's lives on the line, what's the dollar per person, really? So yeah, I fully support. I wish we could pay more, but 30 grand, that's what we've got. Kitty?
Yep.
No problem.
About. Anyone else?
I just repeat what I put in Bex's figures, quite amazing, really, 4,000 people serves the Masterton over here. That's a hell of a lot of people, and also they're going to be home at Masterton. They're going to actually have big home, their building's going up here, so we're going to be very much part of that with the ambulance, and yeah, look, I have absolutely no problems in supporting it for $30,000 a year.
Right, so that's what we'll look at, $30,000 a year for the next 3 years. Do we have a total? That's all of them have been through. Do we have a total at the moment?
Digital senior can't read it.
The first year, you'd spent 290,000 of the 292,852 you had, leaving 2,852. Year 2 will have 10,000 left, and year 3 will have 15,000.
So just a question for whoever. If we've got a little bit, does that just transfer into the next round of contestable funding?
You can make that decision, yes.
Yeah,
go
right.
into that.
So when other groups apply, etc., or whatever the next round is, we can top that up with that.
Yep.
2,852.
So the community will still benefit.
Yeah.
from what's in place.
I just wondered though, if we, because we were all so supportive of the Wellington Free Ambulance, I mean, they're not asking much more than the 30,000 for 3 years, if we actually bring their amounts up to the amounts that they want over those 3 years period, which would be another, what, $1,500.
I'd support
Yeah.
using more.
Okay, yeah.
We
I'm
have
sure
an
of that.
amount. So what are you saying we were?
Well, it was 32,760 in the first year, 38,882 in the second, and 31,500 in the third.
So if we go 31,500.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, we could just go 32,500, and we just we're $252 short of the total that we allocated.
31,500
No, 32,500.
each year.
For this year.
No,
We-
they're only asking for 32,760.
Yeah, but if we went slightly higher, it's only going to help.
Well, that's probably, Tim, if we just stuck to what they want, and then we
Oh,
can just
okay.
carry the rest over, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So we will go for them 30,276 for this year, 30,882 for the following year, and 31,500 for the year after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That's it.
Thank you. Sorry for my misunderstanding there.
And then he comes up with the figures.
What's that come to? 291,500.
2,576 left over. We spent
Okay.
2,906.
2,576.
Yeah.
Going to the next round, eh?
Yep.
Which is significant. I think that's going to give a lot of certainty to people today.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, just going back to the Fab Lab position, so the situation is in place around rent and the current situation until decisions are made around the library, the new library that's going to be in place. So it's not an indefinite thing, it's an until things are put in place around the library. Just agree with that. Yep.
yeah.
Right, so now, where am I? The office's recommendations in the reports, so I'll read them out, that the Awards and Grants Committee, 1, has received the 14 applications for the 2024 to 34 long-term plan funding. 2, decides funding allocations for these applications as summarised in attachment 1 of this report. And 3, notes that all applications submitted by these organisations have been presented at this meeting and listed in Schedule 1. So I will now move the motion, which is a recommendation in the officer's report. Do I have a seconder for that? Bex? Thank you, Bex. I will now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. The motion is carried. Right, thank you everyone. I now declare the meeting closed at 2:50. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks guys. Thanks for